Hi guys, it's Olivia Rae. I'm a psychic medium and somatic healer, and I've spent a lot of time talking about how sensitivity and neurodivergence is pretty much the same thing as being psychic. In this video, I'm talking with my business partner about our upcoming intuitive training. So if you have spent your life kind of feeling like you have to be someone else in order to fit in order to have your needs met, if you've spent your life feeling like you don't really know who you are, this video is for you. It's going to give you some really good context for why something like intuitive training might benefit you. And if you're a sensitive person, it's a great conversation whether you are interested in stepping into an intuitive training program or not. I hope you watch. I hope you enjoy. Feel free to DM me on Instagram if you have any questions at oliviaray.love, and I'll talk to you soon. Hello, Melanie.
Hi, how's it going?
Good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I'm so excited to be here talking with you about the psychic energy work and how it has been extremely transformational for both of us. And tell us a little bit about your process with finding this type of energy work, Olivia, and who you are.
Yeah, well, hello, I'm Olivia Rae. Um, I think my favorite story about finding this work was a friend of mine told me about this thing called intuitive training. She was like, I think you'd really like it. And I really don't know why she said that. Probably because I was super ungrounded at the time. And I remember going to the facility where the intuitive training was located in Los Angeles. And I was like, this is really like a price stretch for me. I'm literally going to be spending the last money in my bank account if I commit to this right now. Um, Feels like a crazy thing to do. And I looked out the window of the studio space and saw this sign that said, unfuck yourself. Be who you were before all the shit happened that dimmed your shine. And I was just like, okay, I'm doing this.
I had no idea that you saw that. That's great.
Yeah, that was like the sign that was like, okay, I'm gonna step into this program. And that was back in 2016. And I just kind of did that first program and then got introduced to some other teachers in the same line of training and ended up stepping into their program. And it's been like 7 years now. And the thing that really, for me, changed my life with this work, the thing that happened where I realized, like, oh, this is something that I'm going to do forever, was I started to realize, and this was very early on, I would say in the first 6 months of my training, I started to realize that I was speaking a language that I had always spoken, but I didn't understand. No one had ever given me the words, no one had ever given me the context. And so, with this intuitive training, with this type of intuitive training, I really started to understand myself in a way that I hadn't prior to that. And I kind of, yeah, just kept going and never looked back. And now I'm really feeling excited to teach this to others and give others that ability to understand themselves. And I think something that's so important about this work is everyone's going to resonate with a different teacher. Everyone is going to step into a program because they feel that resonance with that teacher. And I know so many of my students who I've been working with in just a less intensive capacity, because intuitive training, stepping into a 1.5 year long intuitive training, it's no small undertaking. So my students who I've worked with in breathwork and somatic techniques and just really easy, more beginner level meditative techniques, they've been waiting for me to do something like this. And for like probably 2 years, I've been like, not yet, I'm not ready, I'm not ready. So I'm really excited to have you, Melanie, to partner with to be ready to finally offer this work.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be able to partner with you. And I think my story is very similar, where I was at a crossroads in my life. I'd had a very abrupt spiritual awakening, not that I hadn't had psychic experiences prior, but I kind of tried to make them go away. I just wanted to be in the world like a normal person. I didn't want to be an empath. I didn't want to be super sensitive. I didn't want to be experiencing all of the stimuli and sensory input that being psychic has kind of to offer when you don't have any ways to manage that. And I walked into a school one day where they were doing orange chakra healing. And I remember sitting in the chair and receiving a healing for the first time. And when I left, I was like, oh my God, this is what I've been looking for my entire life. This is it. This is it right here. I found it. And the funny thing about that is that, I'd done Reiki, I had done energy healing courses, I'd done shamanic training, I'd done dream work and journaling and all these different, kind of do it yourself sort of practices, I think, in some ways, aside from Reiki. Um, and a lot of research. I was researching online all the time. I was looking at different accounts that had to do with this type of stuff, and nothing was coming in. Like it wasn't integrating into my life, and knowing that I was an empath didn't make anything any better. And I was really isolating myself at that time. And when I found psychic energy work and intuitive training, it really just made me feel like I finally was able to connect with a piece of myself that was always kind of hidden, but I hadn't really fully had access to yet. So my training began in 2016 as well. Shocking that this happened about the same time.
We didn't
Um,
know each other. We didn't meet until what, 2020,
yeah, I think until
2021 maybe.
it was 2020, it was the beginning of 2020. Um, I just transferred over into kind of an advanced training program, and I met Olivia, and we just instantly became friends. And um,
I feel like
so
the first time that we traded energy healings, we were talking about like Atlantis or Lumeria or something, and we were like, "Ooh, I see you."
definitely, I was like, wow, she's like really talking about some of the stuff that I feel very connected to. Um, and I just was like, okay, like let's work together in kind of a, you know, personal development journey. And as that kind of developed, we became very close and we started working together. And I was like, we should just make something where we can give this gift to everybody else, because what ended up happening when I started my journey was I went from being somebody who felt very lost, very out of control energetically and emotionally, somebody who cried probably every day, somebody who was fairly unhappy and had feeling like I had no direction, to feeling very clear and concentrated and focused and knowing what I needed to do in my life to find my happiness and my answers. And these energy tools really gave that to me. And so I personally have been working one-on-one with people for quite a few years now. But it's not until now that I really felt like I found somebody that I could create a really safe space where they could learn these tools and they could learn and grow through kind of some of the similar experiences that we've had collectively as the teachers for this program. And I think it just really gives us the opportunity to give back what was given to us. And I think that's why it's so exciting, because there's so many people out there that are like us, that are highly sensitive, they're neurodivergent, they're empaths, they're intuitive, and all the information they've gathered is just not coming in a way where it's radically changing their life.
Something that I love that you say that I didn't really resonate with until you poked at and asked me a few questions was being a lifelong medium. And I want to also go back to something that you were saying, before you found these tools, you were saying you felt really out of control. I actually felt a little bit different. I was on a path where, I probably would have become like the manager of a fine dining restaurant or like the manager of a hotel. And I was, in a certain way, very successful in my path. It was very easy for me to find hospitality jobs, but I was not living for myself. I was just matching the energy of what I knew people wanted from me. And if I had continued down that path, I would probably be very chronically ill now. I know I would be incredibly unhappy. I would probably be on some medications, or I would just still be drinking a lot of alcohol and smoking a lot of weed, which is what I used to do to manage the fact that I wasn't living life for me. So I think it's just interesting to point out like those two different manifestations. I did feel in control on some level. I was like, yeah, I'm doing it. Like I'm living in Los Angeles. I'm making, a lot of money for someone my age, working at a fine dining restaurant. And like my upper management was literally begging me to step into leadership. But a part of me knew that that was not going to work for me. And then I found intuitive training and I was able to really step onto a path that was actually authentic to who I am. So I think it's just interesting to really point out like those two different levels. Like you could feel really out of control, or you could feel like you're doing well, but you might just know that like some part of you is not living the way that you genuinely want to live. And then going back to that bit about being a lifelong medium, I really didn't resonate as being a lifelong medium until you were like, well, think about it though, because yeah, like my experience as a lifelong medium wasn't, well, I just don't have memories of when I could see spirits, right? But I do remember having imaginary friends. But my experience of being a lifelong medium was more like I became the energy of everything around me my whole life. Um, the different friend groups that I would have, I would just kind of become those friends. And again, I was not obviously not when I was younger, but as I got older, I was drinking a lot or self-medicating a lot to manage the actual energetic implications of that, of not being able to be who I am around other people, of really feeling like I had to just match the energy around others in order to fit in or be accepted, or on some level get what I thought I needed to exist on this planet. So the intuitive tools not only helped me like live my life for myself, they also helped me realize how sensitive I had been my whole life. Before I started working with tools like this, I wouldn't have identified as someone who was highly sensitive. But the more that I peeled back the layers of how much I was being someone I thought I needed to be and became who I really am, I was like, holy shit, I am so sensitive. I just kind of, it's like a tuning fork when you're really sensitive, right? You just kind of bing, hit up against whatever you're around. And when you've lived a life feeling like it's a survival mechanism on some level, when you've lived a life feeling like you need to match the energy of everything around you so that you don't stand out or ruffle any feathers. It's a skill, but I really believe in learning to use that skill for yourself. I would love to hear about, how your experience of being a lifelong medium, what your experience of being a lifelong medium looked like.
Yeah, so my very first memories are of being in my room at night as a young child, and there were people in my room that talked to me. And when I started talking, I would tell my parents, I'm scared to go to sleep at night because there's these people in my room. And my parents, of course, were like, there's no monsters under your bed. There's nothing to worry about. But that never really went away. And so I found myself always engaging as a child with spirit more than I was engaging with my peers. And I think my parents just thought I had a wild imagination, and that I would grow out of it, right? But as time went on, more and more of kind of those intuitive abilities started to open up. I started to be able to really hear people's thoughts and telepathic communication. I started to be able to see a lot of energy with my eyes open, not at night. I started to be able to have very vivid experiences of creating and manifesting in my dreams and things coming in through my dreams, that like sense of deep deja vu. And when I was about 13 years old, everything kind of blew up. The sensitivity to other people and other people's emotions, the feeling of other people's emotions, that clairsentient and empathic ability really turned on. And it became something that was so overwhelming for me that I actually was medicated and diagnosed as depressed and anxious. And that went on for many years. And that became, a way for them to kind of determine, them being, medical society, that there was something wrong with me, right? There's something wrong with me for being so sensitive, for being so in tune, for being so aware of energy. It was a problem. And it was definitely a problem in my family as well, because when you're somebody who's psychic, you kind of see stuff and you say stuff that maybe your family doesn't want to talk about, or it's, under wraps, or maybe as a kid, you're not supposed to be aware of it. And so that really was a difficult thing to cope with because I kind of grew up on the premise thinking that everybody else in the world didn't have to deal with what I had to deal with. It's typical Scorpio, right? Um, for me, I was so sensitive. I was this victim to the world. And I really believe there's something very wrong. But deep down, I had this connection to this inherent magic and this inherent ability to create. And I found myself really drawn towards storylines and media that portrayed that type of energy. And I always, had this little wish, like, what if I could transform my world like that? What if I could be
I
like
was
Matilda?
Sabrina
What if
the
I could,
Teenage Witch.
right? What if I could be Matilda and like make the
Yeah.
cards fly around the room? Like, what if I could do that? And I just always had this little, draw towards the really magical parts of life. And at a young age, I started delving into and exploring, energy work and Reiki and different topics just at the library and at bookstores. And you could find me on any day at the bookstore in the metaphysical section, is just what they called it then, which is just a section of all the spiritual information. So tarot cards, astrology, colors for healing. It was all that type of stuff that I was seeking out. And from a young age, I was introduced to a friend's sister who was doing like Wiccan magic. So at about 13, I started doing, some ritual magic. And again, my parents were very disappointed. They threw out all my ritual stuff. They threw out all my herbs and candles. They didn't want any of that. And it kind of got shut down. So for a long time, I really suppressed those things. But I always was experiencing growing up, knowing when things were going to happen, hearing communication, having deja vu. And those types of experiences. So when I, came to around 2016, when things opened back up and I was able to re-access all those abilities, I was like, oh no, I'm broken. Something's wrong with me. But then I found a group of people that were really embracing and owning their sensitivity. And it became something that I could not hyper focus on because I was like, this is what has been happening my whole life. And I want to get a grip on it. And I want to really own that sensitivity as my greatest gift. And that's what it's really become for me.
Yeah, and I want to, because I think that our lives have so many parallels, but we really experienced our sensitivity in such different ways. Because when you talked about, you know, the gift and the curse of a sensitive child is we can see things that we're not supposed to see. And when we're really young, we don't have those filters yet to know, like, oh, if I say this, if I poke at this energy, if I point this out, it's going to cause chaos. I think for me from a young age, that chaos happened very early on when I would point at things that I didn't understand were things that I wasn't supposed to see or what I wasn't supposed to be aware of. And so I really, from a very young age, learned to mask that. And what that looked like for me was not really having very many memories of childhood. I honestly, and even really my whole life, like friends, even from high school, will be like, oh, remember when this happened? And I'm like, no. And that's before things like alcohol and drugs were involved. So just to really give that other side of what sensitivity could look like, because I love how you have the memories of like really exploring like the magical, mystical realms of the world from a young age. I just don't have any memories until I learned these tools that allowed me to be grounded. I would say my most vivid memories are from the last 7 years. And as I've uncovered layers, I've also started to get some older memories back. But um, I think this takes us into a really good point around neurodivergence and sensitivity and what that trauma can look like when you don't understand your sensitivity and when the people around you don't understand your sensitivity. I really believe that the world is shifting and there's a lot more permission for this type of sensitivity coming in, but for many of us, especially those who are around the age that would be coming into a training with us, we didn't have that permission when we were younger. So there's a lot of pain and yeah, trauma around being neurodivergent because you know, we've talked about this a lot, but, and I think we both really see it the same way, you know, having intuitive abilities, having sensitivity, and being neurodivergent is kind of the same thing.
In a lot of ways. I mean, when you look at all of the traits of somebody who identifies as intuitive or an empath, they literally line right up with the neurodivergent experience, whether that's saying no to social norms, or that's, um, having an attention that tends to be gravitating towards different energies. Even while you're watching this video, you can see me looking from side to side because I'm looking at different energy. That is a very neurodivergent trait where eye contact is just sometimes not a thing. You've got where you have kind of a social battery and you feel really drained. That's both experiences as well. There's so many parallels that I think that, our medical society kind of groups the neurodivergent experience as this range of experiences. And really what that is it's you being sensitive to a range of different energies and having a range of different intuitive abilities that are turned on, and there's just not knowing how to manage that.
And I think it's also, you know, for me, I feel so grateful that I learned to work with energy before I realized that I was neurodivergent, because it doesn't feel like a burden. It actually feels like a really cool ability that I have. Like, my neurodivergence is a very cool ability. And something that you said earlier, where you were more aware of the world of spirit than the physical world and the world of other humans. I think that's a really strong attribute of neurodivergence. And that's really what I found in doing a training like this, is that I've always spoken the language of energy. And the reason I felt like I never fit in is because no one else was speaking the language of energy, or just didn't know how to. We were all masking, right? Because we felt like we needed to fit in to the world that is more focused on matter and, intellectual things and knowledge, and like, what can you give? What are you contributing to this, versus like, what are you feeling? Who are you being? What is your intention? Like, that's always been the thing that brings me home to myself. I just didn't know how to lead with that because I felt like I needed to hide it. And having these tools has really given me permission to step out of feeling like I need to hide that that is who I am.
Totally. And I think the other point that becomes so difficult for somebody who's highly sensitive or neurodivergent is that we live in a society where there's an appearance and a presentation of what a thing is. And somebody says one thing and they appear and they look a certain way, but then over here, what they're really doing and what they're really using their energy towards and what they really mean is totally the opposite, right? So even when you experience it just in the little way of when you ask somebody if they want to hang out and they're like, oh, I'm busy, like, it's like, for people who are neurodivergent or sensitive, that energy behind that is what you're picking up on. So a lot of times you're perceiving words that are not matching with the energy in the world. And so you become almost kind of confused or spun out in not knowing what's what. Because sometimes people are saying yes, and what they really mean is no. And
Right.
sometimes people are saying maybe, and what they really mean is I would never hang out with you in my life. You know what I mean? It's just like our
Yeah.
society is built around this like facade. And as sensitive people, we're constantly being hit with this stimuli and with these advertisements and with different media that is, these conflicting energies and messages. And how do you find your way through all of that as somebody who's growing up in the world and you're perceiving both?
Yeah, and hitting on that, and that conversation of advertising and marketing and media, it's all of that is being thrown at us because there is an awareness in this world of how powerful our attention is. And these tools really help you to claim that attention for yourself, to learn to direct that attention, to learn to use that attention and intention to create what you actually want, not what the world wants or who the world has told you to be. Because yeah, when we're masking, we kind of are trying to just take things at face value, right? just listen to the words that people are saying, which, like you're saying, is often not what's actually true. There's often an energy behind those words, but a lot of people don't feel like they can just be open and honest because of the world that we live in and the certain standards that exist in our society. So I really have found a lot of self-honesty in having these tools, and it's been a journey, but just having the ability to be honest about where I'm at and what I'm capable of, not only with others, but like first and foremost with myself. Like I lied to myself for a long time to try to fit in because I thought that I needed to fit in to get my needs met. And you
With
don't.
that more. Couldn't agree with that more. And that lying to yourself and trying to meet a standard or this like idea of who you're supposed to be, whether that's family, societal, in any way, that like idea of who you are, that's not you, it just kills your soul. Makes you feel dead inside, and it makes you feel really empty. And there's so many people out here that are searching for, something that's going to give them the answer. And the answer is you. The answer is finding yourself and finding your energy and finding your answers. And that's what is so exciting about teaching this type of energy work is I think the both of us want to be able to not give you your answers, but teach you how to have and find your own answers and your own truth so that you can radically create change in your world. And I just want to segue, unless there's something else you want to say on that.
Um, no, keep going.
So I'm going to segue into asking, what are some of the radical transformations that you've seen with some of your clients in your one-to-one work? Because I know just from personally working with you how powerful that is. And I'd love to hear some, experiences about, how that has really worked for some of your clients.
Yeah, I think the thing that really stands out to me the most, and it really fits in with what we're already talking about in terms of neurodivergence and like feeling like something is missing inside of you. Um, I really
Like
think,
I always just felt like I was empty or like there
yeah,
was this hole and I had to keep like
yeah,
filling it, like
you're
with
seeking.
stuff or with validation or with looking
Yes,
pretty or with food. It was just whatever I could take from the
yeah,
outside. And that's so our society, right? It
yes,
says buy
exactly.
this new
Like
car, buy this new outfit,
sensory seeking.
and it just never gives you the thing, right?
Yes.
Sorry.
And like, no, it's okay. Like seeking that stimulation, that thing that, you feel like is in the future that's going to finally make you feel what you want to feel. What I've seen the most in my work with my clients is people shifting into recognizing that like how you want to feel is not in the future. It's a matter of having the ability to sit down right now and move out the energy that says that you can't bring your spirit into the body here and feel yourself here and feel complete here in this moment. When you can bring yourself in right now and feel complete right now here in this moment, the need to find something, to seek something, to go into the future, to leave the present moment really to find that thing that you feel like you're looking for, it goes away. So it's really in my one-on-one work with clients, it's having that ability to know what works for them because everyone is different. And I think that is the beauty of going through such an intensive program like the one that we're offering, is being able to get to know yourself well enough to find your differences. Like, I work with things like herbs, and you stayed at my house, so you know how many crystals I have. And I really found those.
Oh my God, I did not realize.
I really, yeah, if you don't come here, you just can't know because they're like hidden in corners and like just
They're
stuff.
in every room of the house. So it wasn't a single day that I got up that I wasn't like, oh,
Oh,
there's
a
a
new
crystal over
crystal.
here. I didn't notice this one. Oh, wow, that was really pretty.
And I love things like sound instruments and things like that. But I really discovered those tools that work for me through having the energy tools to be in my own exploration of myself. That is the gift that I feel like this work gives people. And it's not something that has an end. And I think that's one of the fallacies of our society, is the idea that you're going to go through this training and then you're going to be complete. That's not real. That doesn't exist. I've had conversations with Melanie about the word mastery because I really wanted it to not be a part of the verbiage that we used in our training, because I just think that the idea of mastery is really in an energy that doesn't really honor and serve who we are as humans. Who we are as humans is we're always evolving and we're always finding something new that works for us. And having that curiosity and that ability to just be in the present moment, curious about what you need right now and what works for you right now, I personally have found for myself and with my clients is much more fulfilling than the idea that you're going to master a skill and suddenly your life is going to be better. Um, your life can be better here in this moment. Often the reason we don't feel like our life is what we want it to be is because we're managing an energy that isn't ours. So I really think that that's the gift of this, is having the ability to fully be in the present moment and to find the energy that you want to be working with versus taking on a bunch of energies that aren't actually yours.
Totally. Makes
I'd love
sense
to
to me.
hear about some of the transformation that you've seen in your client work.
Yeah, I think that the biggest things that I notice with people is that they come out of these places in their lives where they just were so unaligned. There's been so many instances where I'm working with somebody and all of a sudden they clear some energy and they realize that they've been living in some sort of like illusion around where they were heading or why they wanted that thing. And all of a sudden their life takes a like a total, turn, and they're happy, they're joyous, they're creating things that they want to create, they have more energy, they feel better physically, they feel better emotionally, they feel more just certain in their path. And it's so beautiful to see people go from, reaching out and saying, I really need help finding my answers, to I know what I need to do. And it's such a cool and deeply rewarding thing to experience with someone, where all of a sudden they're just in that space where they have that certainty and that clarity. And you're like, wow, I facilitated the space where somebody could move through energy to find that. And I don't really credit myself with their ability to find their joy. I credit myself with the ability to create the space for them to be able to move through what they need to move through and face what they need to face in order to find that joy. And I think that's a really big difference with what's kind of out here in the world right now. And when we talked about creating this program, we've spoken a lot of times about how excited we are, because I think there's so many people out there offering that diet pill and that quick fix and that, you know, um, 3-day intensive workshop that's supposed to make everything better. But the tools that we're teaching are tools that you can use in your day-to-day life that can help you to find your clarity no matter what you're going through. And they can evolve and change and grow, and your awareness can evolve and change and grow. And I almost describe the experience of, being in this type of training as walking through a series of doors of awareness. So, you come in and you have these ideas and training and things that you've experienced in the world, and all of a sudden you're doing some training and you just open this door. And through that door is this greater awareness of the way things are working in life, of energy, of things that are maybe limiting beliefs or ways that you haven't been aligned with yourself. And then you're kind of in that space for a bit and you're looking around and you're getting used to it and you're making changes, and then you're doing more work and all of a sudden another door opens, and it just keeps expanding in that way. So I think you're right. There's maybe not a level of so much mastery as there is a level of ownership, with the ability to change and create in the world in a way that I think that in our society, we just don't have the tools to do on a day-to-day basis.
While you were talking about, walking through doors, I was just seeing how I really think the power of this work is that it allows you to recognize that everything that is happening in your life has value, because your life is going to bring you the exact energy that you need to work through. And, for you and I, we've really turned this into a profession for ourselves. We both full-time work with people one-on-one. We're starting our training now. But even if you don't feel the call to work professionally with others, going through a training like this is going to give you the ability to recognize that even at, you know, the job that you love, that you're working, everything that comes to you is for a reason, and you get to work the energy. And we could get really metaphysical with it, where, you know, often the people that you feel the most triggered by, or the most just charged around, there's past lives there, and there's karma, and there's things that you're ready to bring into present time, so that you can really like gain the goodness of this lifetime. For so many people that I work with, I see, you know, they've lived so many lifetimes on this planet at this point, and, you know, we've been pretty grounded in our conversation thus far. But I'm just going to really take it there for a moment,
Go
because
there.
it is
Let's
such a
go.
huge part.
Unbuckle.
Yeah, it is such a huge part of this work, is being very grounded, but also having the ability to recognize that at this point, if you're interested in stepping into a program like this, you've lived so many lives, and this lifetime is really a culmination of bringing all of that old karma, and just all of those loose ends, all of that energy that maybe didn't completely resolve itself in past lifetimes, fully into present time, so that you can really experience, like, the fact that being human is it's fun. Like, we're here to have a good time. And the world is a crazy place right now, and it can feel heavy. And we can have both. We can really honor the fact that, you know, there's a lot of hardship in the world, and we can also acknowledge that if we are privileged enough to be able to step into a space where we can have tools like this, then we can live in a way that gives people hope, and that makes people feel like, you know, there's a reason that we're here. I really, really believe that after thousands of hours reading energy, every single spirit has that within them, to recognize that, like, man, I'm here because I want to feel good in this body in this lifetime, and I can do that no matter what's happening in my life. And I think, like, at the end of the day, that's really like the purpose of stepping into something like this, is gaining the ability to have the tools to feel good, um, no matter what you're going through. And it doesn't mean you're always going to feel good. Sometimes you're going to feel bad, but then you can just work the energy, and you can get yourself to that point where you feel hopeful again, and where you feel connected to your life again, and where you feel excited about the possibilities in front of you again. I have seen it over and over and over, like literally thousands of times at this point, and it's possible for everyone. It's just a matter of working energy.
And I think that what these tools really give you is the ability to be empowered in whatever comes your way. Like most people, they're being affected by life. And when you step into this energy work, you're able to work energy as it comes up and resolve it and see why it's even there and move through it. Because I think we could even move to talk about what our program is not. And our program is definitely not about love and lighting your way through life. I don't think that, you know, spiritual bypassing is really what gets you to a point where on a daily basis, you're not like one Starbucks coffee away from having a total meltdown. And you see so many people in the spiritual community that are, you know, riding that wave of spiritual bypassing, where they're just like, love and light, happiness. I'm just going to happiness my way around my trauma, and happiness my way around this disappointment, and happiness around this person who cut me off. And all of a sudden, they just are like this powder keg, and they're ready to blow at any moment. And you know, I just don't think that what we have to bring is, you know, in a lot of ways similar to what's available. So some of the things that, you know, our program is not, is it's not a one-stop fix all. It's not a promise to you know, love and light your way through anything. This is deep transformational work where you're going to be looking at and addressing points where you're stuck, and maybe where you haven't been wanting to bring your awareness to, in order to get your energy back, bring your energy into your body, embody your truth, and be empowered in the world and take your next step. The other thing is, there's so many different practices out there that take you so far out of your body, like extreme dieting, you know, taking different recreational substances to achieve spiritual experiences, different people that are instructing people to kind of call other energies in to do work for them, leaving their body, trying to get into trance-like states, channeling without having any amount of training. And um, we're doing quite the opposite here, where we're teaching you how to kick everything else out so that you can be in charge.
And
I know
that
you.
is what you came to do. And I mean, I don't want to, I really try to stay away from giving anyone their answers. But again, after thousands of hours of energy reading, every single person has the same goal in this lifetime, which is bringing who they actually are into their body. And yeah, I mean, I lived in Los Angeles for 8 years. Like, I went through my spiritual awakening in LA. I've seen some shit. I've been in some communities. You're in Boulder. There's also some shit there.
I've I've been to some experiences, that's for sure.
Had some experiences, and more often than not, what I see is people teaching people to bring other energies in to make them feel good, but it's not sustainable. What is sustainable is recognizing that often when you don't feel good, it's because you're managing an energy that's not yours. So the question becomes, how do you move that out so that you can bring more of yourself into the body? And that's what we're offering here.
And the other point is that there's so many people that are offering programs where they're trying to be your answer
Mm,
and be the person who has the way that's going to help you.
yeah,
And both of us really do not resonate with that. We both resonate more at a level of, let me give you the tools so that you can find your own answers.
yeah.
Because there's so many people that almost have like a cult like following, that they believe that everything a person says, in a spiritual community, it's like the word of God, right? And then, later on, it comes out that these people are kind of shitty behind closed doors. Or I don't know if you saw the In the Deep End with Teal Swan
Oh yeah.
um, documentary. I was like, huh. And the way that you can kind of navigate that is, if you ever find yourself in a space where there's somebody who, denies your own answers, or is upset about you questioning their point of view, or somebody who tries to make you feel less, makes you feel inferior. Those are really big indicators that you're probably not in the right space. And if you feel like there's something off in those spaces, just run. Just get out of there. Get far, far away, because I've actually had the experience where I've been in training with somebody who was kind of like the head of the training center. And it was very much so in that level of energy of, I have all the answers. You don't question me. I have all these great, amazing experiences. I'm very enlightened. And they ended up honestly just being a really shitty person. So what I think is really cool that we offer is, this real open authenticity about our flaws and about what we've experienced in our hardships and how we've been able to work through them, because we're not coming from a place of this kind of spiritual hierarchy, like, oh, I'm so enlightened, let me teach you the way, I have the answers. How do you feel about that?
Well, yeah, I think you're right. I think, to summarize, if you feel like something is off, it probably is. Ask questions, and the person who you feel like something may be off about is going to expose themselves really quickly if they're not willing to have an open, honest conversation with you about your questions. That's like the biggest red flag for me. If someone's not willing to just talk about their differences, or what you might have curiosities or questions about, yeah, run.
It's good advice. Good
Because there's
advice.
an agenda there,
Get
if
out of
someone,
there.
yeah, if someone is saying, my way or the highway, there's an agenda there. And what we're offering is your ability to really find what is true for you. There's no agenda in that. It's just, we want to empower you to have your own answers and to be able to work the energy that comes up in your life so that you can actually um, feel enriched by the life that you're living, and feel connected to who you truly are, which again happens by bringing your spirit fully into the body.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up today?
I don't think so. I think this was really great, and expect more If you are interested, you can check out our website for more information, but you can also RSVP to the open house that we're going to be having the day after my birthday on March 26th. And it's free. Just come to the open house. We're going to be giving a group healing so you can really kind of experience more of what this work is about. You can feel it for yourself and see if it's the right place for you.
And come and bring all of your questions because we are happy to answer all of them.
But you're going to say, bring all of your friends. And I was like, yes, bring
Yeah,
your
bring all of your friends too, and all of your questions.
Awesome. Well, we will see you soon. And thanks for watching.